Alright, today we're going to do the long-awaited tier list for Divine Knockout. Now, I did not only take my opinions into account, I did take opinions from a couple other players, and one player in particular is my good friend Angelic, who likes to play on the professional scene. So with that being said, I came to the conclusion of what would be the perfect spot for a lot of these different gods and a lot of the reasons. Also note that regardless of where your character personally lands on this tier list, it really comes down to skill because no matter where you land, even if you're on the highest to the bottom, you will still have a chance with all the gods in Divine Knockout to dominate the scene. Now, with that being said, we're going to start off here with Amaterasu. Amaterasu is such a great choice, and I believe she belongs in A tier. And the reasons for this are very simple. She has a massive combo called a Rage Quit combo, where she can end you in a couple seconds. Now, that right there is extremely powerful. She has one of the best spikes in the game. She also has the ability to survive. By survive, I don't mean she's tough. I mean, she has an ability to kite around the map so easily that you, as an enemy, have a hard time getting her. She has a lot of interrupts. Her Heavenly Strike, as well as her Uppercut, have the ability to interrupt enemies when they're coming in and attacking you easily without any effort. She can counter near every single character in the game once played correctly. She does, however, have a skill ceiling. Her skill ceiling is, I would say, mid tier. That allows a lot of players to be able to pick her up easily. Another thing to note is that her ultimate ability is perfect. You can combo this off a lot of her abilities, and it is very much most of the time a KO once you get it close enough to the edge of the map or have your enemy with a high enough vulnerability. When it comes to team fights, in 2v2, Amaterasu is very powerful and deadly. She is a force to be reckoned with, and just for the same reasons above, you need to be paying attention to her as well as the enemy you are facing. Now, Amaterasu shines less in my opinion when it comes to 3v3. I think she doesn't support the team as heavily as other characters. However, she is very good as usual as eliminating enemies high on vulnerability. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about with Amaterasu is of course her coolness factor. In my personal opinion, she gets an 8 out of 10. She has a lot of beautiful skins in the game and it just screams anime, especially that Mecha Tarasu skin. So perfect. So that right there is my main reasons for Amaterasu being an A tier. The only downside to Amaterasu, in my opinion, is just having to learn the combos. Now, once you mess up a combo or use Heavenly Strike, you will be open to attack from your enemies. Now, with that being said, we're going to go on to the next character here, and it's going to be Thanatos. Now, Thanatos, in my opinion, he belongs in B tier. And I believe this is such a good spot for him for these following reasons. One of the main reasons is that he has a massive downside, and that is the point that his abilities take vulnerability from him, increasing his vulnerability basically when he uses them. That right there, I've heard from a lot of new players, that is one of their biggest takeaways from him, as they don't understand or get how to play him properly. Now, Thanatos is a character you can't just go ham like Loki or Amaterasu. You have to kind of kite around and be smart, because once your abilities are down, you are more or less open to attack from your enemies, and it will be easily for them to dominate the scene. Now, with that being said, he could have been lower, but because of his abilities and the way he's actually played by professionals or people who learn him really well, they are able to do such fantastic things with him. So his skill ceiling, in my opinion, is very high, but his abilities make up for it. So the fact that you're able to heal is a massive plus in my opinion. You're also able to hover back on the ground. And when you're hovering, you can cancel your hover at any moment and allow yourself to be high up in the air and destroy enemies if they're coming in from the outside of the ring. Another thing to note too is that the way his abilities work, once you land them properly with right combos, you will be able to eliminate enemies no problem. His build also allows for builds such as the Speed Demon build, where you can do such massive and fast attacks your enemies have no idea what hit them, as well as his heavy attacks in general. Now, his hold heavy attack is good, but it leaves him open when he misses, but his air heavy attack is one of the most strongest knockouts in the game. Especially when you combo it off his interrupt, it gives you the perfect combo to knock people out, especially when they're above your purple range. And that's another thing with Thanatos that is great. Thanatos has the ability to allow yourself to gain extra knockback and damage on enemies over a certain vulnerability percentage. Now, with that being said, his skill ceiling is extremely high. Keep that in mind. But where Thanatos really excels is not 1v1, it is team fights. In 2v2 and 3v3 especially, Thanatos is a force to be reckoned with. In my opinion, he's probably the best 3v3 character in the game. He's able to support, heal, and carry a team by himself more or less once you're able to understand his mechanics. When it comes to 2v2, you need to be aware of the Thanatos. However, I believe in 2v2 it is easy to dogpile on him and take him out. However, if you're not doing that, Thanatos can just roam around and be the perfect support to his ally, allowing his team to excel and win the game. Now for the coolness factor. Now Thanatos, in my opinion, was once my favorite. However, I don't believe his purchasable skin is nice. I really do not like it. His level 20 skin is decent. Overall, for his coolness factor, I would give him a solid 6 out of 10. His scythe is cool. That's about it. You know, he's pretty average in my opinion. Now the next character we're going to talk about is going to be one of my favorites. It's Izanami. Now in the game, Izanami is a force to be reckoned with, yet at the same time, she has a lot of downsides as well as upsides. So with that being said, I would put her clearly at C tier. Now we're going to get into the reasons why, and one of the main reasons that I think she does have issues is the fact that she does have a lot of delay and lag on a lot of her abilities. Now her sickle boomerang is extremely great, where you could toss it out and it comes back to you, allowing you to have the opportunity in case you mess up for your boomerang to save you out. Now another thing, having a ranged attack in Divine Knockout does help a lot in certain circumstances, especially team fights. Now with that being said, another thing that allows her to be very powerful, she is equipped with a spike, and spikes in this game are sometimes the way to end games so early, or just end a game midway no problem once their vulnerability is super high. And one of the things you can do with her that is a perfect combo is use your sickle boomerang. Now if it does hit somebody coming on the way back in, when he does that, you now have an opportunity to easily spike your opponent. Now with that being said, her charge ability is good for damage and knockout. At the same time, it's one of the easiest abilities to dodge once you understand how. And once you dodge, Izanami is open to attack. Now, when it comes to her ultimate ability is the fair ability, which allows for massive opportunity for you to turn around a game or end a game early on. Now, with that being said, what makes this an issue is the fact that how you cast it and have to recast it. It can be easily dodged by your enemies once they have the opportunity to, meaning that if they have their dodge up or just have a little space to maneuver around, they can easily see the direction you're going to shoot this out and just kite around it no problem. Now when it comes to her mobility, it is nice that you do turn invisible. When you compare it to Loki's, however, it is a bit lackluster since you can't really dodge or do much while you're invisible with Izanami. So yeah, there's a kind of balance between her, which is why I think she's an average character and a good character for people to pick up, as she is easy to learn. Her skill ceiling is not that high. Now when it comes to team play, I believe she is very good. She's able to support her team perfectly. She's able to do a lot of things. So when it comes to 2v2, she is a force to be reckoned with. You can play her aggressively or passively. Mostly aggressively is probably the better way to play her in my personal opinion, as when you play her passively, she can just be dogpiled on and taken out. Now when it comes to 3v3, I would say she's also pretty average with this. She's a nice team player, able to support her allies evenly with her abilities that are available to her. Another thing, however, that I do want to say that I just remembered, when it comes to her mobility, the thing that is very lackluster about that is that you can be interrupted while you're in the air. Let me tell you, that has happened to me so many times and it sucks, and I can see it being an easy way for new players to get discouraged when facing players that have been playing for a long enough time to understand this. Now with that being said, we're going to go into the obvious cool factor section, and she's going to get a solid 9 out of 10. She has a beautiful skin, the heavy metal skin, it looks amazing. In general, I think she looks really nice with her little armor on, especially for her level 20 skin. Now we're going to go into the next character, and the next character we are going to talk about is Sun Wukong. Now Sun Wukong, in my personal opinion, belongs in A tier, and one of the main reasons for this is the way his kit is designed. You have so many opportunities to counter enemies and do damage. You excel in all avenues of the game. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give a little closer breakdown on what goes on. With Sun Wukong, you have the ability with your ultimate to have a clone. Now, your clone may not be the smartest. It used to be a little smarter, but they had to nerf it because the clone became such an issue in the game. So right now the clone is only able to really do one other ability, and you know, it's fine because it's mainly used as a meat shield or just to kite around or just go into your enemy to do some damage, let your enemy use an ability, and then you just take advantage of that. Your clone can also be used to switch places with you, and you can kite around using that very nicely if you have the abilities equipped. Sorry, not the abilities. If you have the skill equipped with you. Now, with that being said, his Cudgel is a very powerful ability that has the potential to knock enemies out when you get max range when they're high vulnerability. However, it is extremely easy to dodge if your opponent sees it coming or is accustomed playing against Sun Wukong. And once they dodge through that perfectly, they will be able to hit you and punish you unless your Wi-Fi is perfect and you're able to get that dodge timing down. Now, with that being said, you have Dashing Strikes. Dashing Strikes is such a powerful move and has a lot of versatility in the game. You can obviously combo off it with 2 strikes on an enemy, then turn it into light attacks, which gives you the most damage potential, or you can go with the full 3 dashes and use the 3rd dash to either knock someone out or just kite back to protect yourself from enemies doing something on you. Now with Dashing Strikes, however, I love to do this to Wukong's because it always throws them off. if you time it right when he's doing the dash, you could easily interrupt that, no problems. Now, in my opinion, his major takeaway from this is his mobility. His mobility allows for two different forms, his bird form and his tiger form when you're on land. Now, this is great. It allows you the versatility if you're using your bird form to knock somebody out early or have more maneuverability on the map. However, the tiger form is extremely hard to maneuver around, and I've seen so many people run off the map and just die instantly, no problem, nothing's able to be done. Now, his bird form is kind of hard, but you can do some nice tricks with it. Wukong overall is such a great character. His damage is great, his abilities are great. However, he can't be S tier as he's lacking certain areas, in my personal opinion, that I mentioned before, and I don't think if you played against a Wukong for a long enough time, you're really going to lose. If you really know how Wukong works, it's similar to how Loki is, you will be able to take him out, or at least look for advantages that you're looking for to go, okay, I know what you're about to do, and I'm about to punish you for it. Now, with that being said, in team fights, he excels greatly, and this is another reason why he's an 8 tier. When 3v3 and 2v2, he is such a force to be reckoned with that you don't have to worry. He is the perfect support for your team as well. He's able to tank, kite, anything you need, peel even. Now, with that being said, we're going to go into his coolness factor. Wukong's getting a 10 out of 10. Not because his skin, however. That pirate skin is ugly. Other than that, his normal skin and his level 20 skin is 10 out of 10. It looks amazing. Now we're going to go on to the next god in this god tier, and we're going to go talk about Hercules. Now, Hercules, I'm sorry, guys. He is very strong. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to put him in D tier. I think he belongs in D tier. I'm kind of biased. Now, I do enjoy playing him sometimes. However, he lacks in a lot of areas, but he's such an easy character to play at the same time, and I'll give you my reasons right now. Now, his boulder is very powerful. You're able to chuck it, do some damage, or help you knock people out. Hercules also has the ability where he can literally use a rage quit combo of his own, where he suicides himself, technically ensuring that he disables you. In 1v1, Hercules sucks. Now, obviously, like every other character, if you have a player that is extremely high skill level with them, they'll obviously be able to excel in 1v1. However, the average player is not really going to win a lot of 1v1s with Hercules. Hercules is all about that 2v2 and 3v3 gameplay. His ultimate is good. When you collect people enough, you can be able to knock them out with the damage and the last part of it as its massive knockback. However, at the same time, it's pretty easy to interrupt if you know what you're doing. As soon as he's about to transform, if you hit him, it turns off his ultimate immediately. Plus, you can easily kite away from it if you have your mobility up, or, if you're just at a good enough distance. That is something to know as well. You can even kite right at the edge of the map where he can't hit you if you're using the right character, or just know your character well enough. Now, when it comes to his tackle, it's pretty easy to dodge. I would say 9 out of 10 times. Once you know how Hercules is coming at you with that, he's able to just, not land it on you. Now, when it comes to his pounce, I think that, in my opinion, is his best ability. He's able to catch you while you're in the sky easily and just knock you out. Now, his air attacks are extremely powerful, and that's something you do need to know with Hercules. His air light and hair heavy are massive for Hercules. You need to be very careful of that, or you will be knocked out of the map easily. And Hercules love to do this, as they basically spam the same abilities over and over and over. He doesn't have a lot of diversity. He's also not the hardest character to pick up. I would say he's probably, I don't know, half mid-range in terms of skill-wise. But if you're a really great player, you're able to find ways and maneuvers around on enemies that you're able to do so much damage to them that they're not able to come back. So overall, I just think he belongs in D tier. There's not really much he can do. You can easily counter him when you're playing 1v1. 2v2, he's good as he's a bully, but if you and your ally know what you're fighting, you guys have a very good chance to body him or just ignore him straight out and let him not really do anything. Now, with that being said, if you're playing 2v2 against a Hercules, if you focus the Hercules 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get the Hercules out first. With that being said, in 3v3, however, he truly shines. He's able to be, I don't know, mysterious. People don't really pay attention to the Hercules, and if they don't, Hercules just swings his mace, goes around, and does damage, knocking people out. Now, for his coolness factor, though, Hercules does look cool. I actually really like how Hercules looks. He's all jacked and stuff. I would give him a solid 8 out of 10 on my scale here for just coolness factor. Now we're going to the next character. Now the next character is going to be our first S tier character, and it's obviously going to be Sol, my favorite. I love Sol. Sol is so perfect. Now, Sol is S tier, and in my personal opinion, she belongs here. She can counter every other character. She is perfect in every single game mode, no matter what it is, limited time or not. And she's able to 1v1 to perfection once you understand how she is. She's even able to heal out. Now, her combustion is something you need to be careful of, obviously. If you use your combustion while you're off the map, you're going to just drop down into oblivion, but you're going to more or less times use it when you're in the air, drop down on the floor, make sure the floor is beneath you, which will give you a good chance to combust and knock people out. You also have a very powerful hold heavy and heavy attack. Now, your hold heavy attack just adds extra range to your heavy attack. That's really it. You also have the perfect traits out there. You do fire damage, overtime damage. Your obvious mobility is perfection. You're able to go into a little fireball, go down. Now, if you interrupt your enemy, you can obviously press spacebar, get out of that, into an air light, air heavy, and knock them back. Her air light attacks and air heavy attacks do so much massive damage and knockback. It's incredible. She is also looking super cool and cute in the game. Her auto attacks, or sorry, light attacks are super powerful, and you're able to punish a lot of enemies with it. Another thing to be said, her ultimate. This is probably, I would say, the only part where she has a real weakness, and her ultimate is only weak because you have to land it in a certain spot, but it has so much diversity to it that it allows you to do more. You can chuck your gigantic fireball, or spirit bomb as I like to call it, when somebody's coming in, and once it connects to them, it doesn't have to connect to the point where it was going on the ground. Once it connects to them, even in the air, it knocks them out of the ring. In 2v2 and 3v3, this is so perfect. In 1v1, I even use this, and it's hilarious. Sol is the perfect for peeling and helping your allies, as well as destroying your enemies. She belongs in S tier. Her skill level, I would say, isn't even that high, and this is another reason why she's in S tier. However, a lot of players don't tend to play her. I don't know why. I love to play her. Whenever I'm playing Sol, I'm ready to destroy people. This is another thing I always keep in mind when I'm playing her. So with that being said, we're going to go into the coolness factor for Sol. I'm giving her a straight 10 out of 10. She is chibi, she is cute, she is awesome. There are so many skins that are probably coming for her, and I can't wait. All the skins that are available, especially her level 20 skin. I love her level 20 skin. Just the texture and color of it, in my opinion, is the best level 20 skin in the game. Now, with that being said, I think I've simped for Sol long enough. We're going to go on to the next character, and this character is going to be Susano, sorry. I don't know why I said that wrong. Susano is going to be C tier. C tier for Susano. I remember the days when he was S tier. This is when the game now came out. I'm really thankful that they were able to balance him off. Now he's average. Now, one of the things that makes Susano, in my personal opinion, average is the skill that takes to play him. He's not like how he was before, where anybody can pick him up and win games. You need to be very good at him or play so many hours with him to understand how he works and the range of his character. Now, with that being said, that is why he's in C tier, but there are good things to him, and I'm going to list all that right now. One of the main things is his mobility. Now, with his mobility, he's very much like Thanatos. You kind of don't really need to reactivate it to land on the ground. Now, if you do, obviously, it's better for team fights if you're going to use it. Using it in 1v1 barely makes sense. You use it literally to get up in the sky or dodge an ability. Technically, you can use it as another dodge. Now, another thing to note, his updraft, man, that tornado he shoots at you is ridiculous. If you get caught in that, you are going to be punished for it. So you need to try to make sure you do not if you're an enemy, and it's perfect for Susano players if they learn how to use it perfectly. Because obviously, me as a person playing against a Susano, because I know that is something, I'm always aware of it and trying to dodge out of that first. Now, with that being said, he has the ability to do a triple attack on you, and this is very, very, very important. It separates itself and you reactivate it to continue on. Now, what makes this special that each one does something different. However, if you do not use the range perfectly or know when to reactivate which portion of it in a fight, you will be super punished. So again, Susano just has this 50-50. He's good and he has a lot of downsides to the way his kit plays. At the same time, there is no better attack in the game than his helicopter move. His helicopter move, which is his air light, is the most annoying thing to have to deal with. It used to be more annoying, but it's still annoying, in my personal opinion. With that being said, overall, Susano is such a great character. He has extra dashes because of his ability, Storm Katana. All these different things work into his kit. He's a very average character. Now, if you're really good with him, as I said earlier, you'll be able to take him up to an A tier character. Obviously, he's no longer S tier. His ultimate, in my opinion, sucks. His ultimate, when you use it, you kind of just use it as a floating in the sky, unless you have a way to bait your opponent's dodge or bait them to come in where they can land in it. In team fights, he's average. He can be an extra player in the matchup, just average, nothing really special added to the team, or you can be a detriment because your person playing him doesn't know how to play. I mean, it happens sometimes when I'm playing Susano. Because I don't really play him often, sometimes I'm the reason my team loses, and I'll be very honest with you. Now, with that being said, I would think the best mode he shines in is probably 1v1 overall. 2v2 and 3v3, I think you could pick other better characters unless you're really good with him. Now, with that being said, I want to state his coolness factor. His coolness factor is obviously going to be a 10 out of 10. I mean, look at him. He's a stud. He's got that cool hat. He's got that cool outfit and that sword. His skin is perfect as well. 10 out of 10 for Susano overall when it comes to coolness factor. Now we're going to go on to the next character here, and we're going to talk about Zeus. And Zeus is going to be B tier. He's very much like Thanatos in my personal opinion. He has so many good things, but at the same time, he has certain things that just hold him back from progressing to A and S tier. Now with that being said, we're going to talk about that right here. And one of the main things to keep in mind, all of Zeus's abilities are able to be interrupted. Keep that in mind. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you can interrupt it. Probably his ultimate is the only one that is uninterruptible technically, but other than that, that's really one of the main down factors or downfalls for Zeus. So when it comes to his surge, it's really nice. It has a lot of power, extra knockback potential, especially if you land it when you're going for that instant early knockout on your enemy. You know what I mean? His air heavy attack is a beautiful animation. Now, it's very powerful as well. I just think it's animated cool because it goes boom. It's like this lightning booty clap and you're just slamming people out of the map. I love it. His air light combos. His heavy combos in the game are really nice as well, except at the same time, they're very much like Athena. They can go the double, so it can work in your favor in case you miss the first part of your whole heavy attack. But you know, it leaves you vulnerable if you go in for the full combo towards an enemy and they see you close enough, they can easily light attack you. Another thing to note is his Thunderstruck. When he's dropping lightning bolts from the sky, let me be honest with you, it can be interruptible, but the upside to it is if somebody does interrupt it, they get interrupted themselves because the first lightning struck still comes down. Now, when it comes to his lightning bolt, I actually love this ability. However, it is hard to land because it's a skill shot, right? So you need to have very good aim or accuracy to be able to land this, very much like a lot of other projectiles in the game. Now, Zeus's ultimate is very good in my opinion. It can be used to just add extra damage to your opponent. I will say 8 out of 10 times you're probably not going to land the last part of it unless you're in a team fight and people are not aware or their dodge is down in 1v1. That's how you're going to land that last part to knock them out. But it's very good at increasing vulnerability on your enemies. Overall, he's a very good brawler. He's able to control himself in the sky. No other character can fly around the sky like Zeus, and that is something that you need to know because that right there is a plus. Now, with that being said, in team fights for 2v2, he's good, but at the same time, if you're not understanding how to play him, you will be a detriment to your team in 2v2, and people are just going to body you first because they know Zeus is probably the easier target out of a lot of the other characters, probably besides Susano, but I think overall Zeus is probably an easier target for people to body as he takes a lot of skill to play as well. However, not as much as Susano. Now in 3v3, he's very nice at controlling. In arcade mode, he excels greatly. In arcade mode, he is probably one of the best characters you can possibly pick. In 3v3 knockout, it kind of depends on the player. Now, with that being said, I think his coolness factor is probably a 9 out of 10. I love his level 20 skin. It is so perfect. Once I got that, he was the first character I made sure and I wanted to get that level 20 skin for. And well, let me tell you, when I got that level 20 skin, I felt so happy. I looked so cool. He looked young. He looked great. Now, with that being said, we're going to move on to our next character for this list, and it's going to be the mighty Thor himself. Now, Thor, in my opinion, is C tier. There's nothing too special about the way he plays in the game. However, his kit is good for anybody that's new to the game to pick up. You're able to dominate matches, you're able to support your team, you're able to literally do anything you want without having to worry too much, and his skill is not that high. However, he does have things that players who know Thor are able to literally interpret and just take advantage of and punish their people playing Thor. So with that being said, his mobility is a beautiful ability. It allows you to get a stun if you land it on your enemy. Now with that being said as well, you also have to be worried because when you come down with your mobility, if somebody knows you're coming down there because it shows on the map, all you really have to do is wait for him to come down and then you instantly go in for some attacks on Thor, punish him for doing that. Now, when it comes to Mjolnir, Mjolnir is actually really good. I don't think Mjolnir has a lot of downsides because it also has that extra eject range which can crit people off the map. It's a good way to push people back so you can get space or peel for your allies. When it comes to his Berserker's Barrage, this can be used as a protection or you can use it on your enemies. It's very, very hard to interrupt with any light attacks, or you have to actually use an ability to interrupt this, but you can dodge the last part of the Berserker's Barrage easily if you're timing it right so you don't get that extra knockback. Now, with that being said, again, remember, you can use this as a defensive ability as well when people are coming in you, or, you know, you're just so suffocated by your enemies or Loki invisible that you pop it and they can't really do anything, buying you extra time. When it comes to his ultimate, I think it's a decent ultimate. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10 because when you land it, if you land it properly on your enemies, they're going to be knocked out, and it's a very powerful ultimate that can knock out more than one player at a time. Now, with that being said, obviously, it's very easy to dodge if you're at a further distance. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes you get lucky and you're able to hit enemies that are really far away when they're not paying attention. Overall, I think that's the gist with Thor. He's an average player with average skill cap, and you don't have to worry really about much. With that being said as well, in 2v2, he brings a lot to the team. He can be used as a support, he can be used as somebody to peel for his allies, or he can just be used as somebody that does a lot of damage. He's obviously in 2v2 and 3v3, you have an easier time landing your stun, which is very good. Another thing to talk about is his air attacks. His air heavy attack is probably one of the worst in the games. It does take a little lag if you think about it. However, his warp distance with his air light is wonky, and it can work in your favor where you can warp to your enemies at weird angles and somehow interrupt them. It's very powerful. His light attacks are nice. At the last part of his light attack, he chucks his hammer just a little bit. I think that's a nice little thing to note, that it does work in your favor if you want to make sure you land an extra light attack on your enemies. And with that being said, we're going to talk about his coolness factor. Now, his coolness factor, obviously, he does look pretty cool. I love that the game makes him off as he's a little angry at times. I think it's so funny. With that being said, I think I would give him a solid 8 out of 10 in top of his coolness factor. I do not like his skin, however. That old man Thor skin is gross. I'm sorry, I just don't like those old skins too much, but his level 20 skin is decent and his normal skin is decent, so 8 out of 10 for coolness factor. Now we're going to go on to the next character. Now the next character is very important here, and we're going to talk about Ymir. Ymir is going to get D tier, I'm not going to lie to you. Now, Ymir is a great and fantastic character. His abilities are so powerful. The main issue holding back Ymir is his skill cap. You need to be playing in hours to understand how to play Ymir perfectly and come up with your own skills to use it. His air light is super great. You use this big back belly slam. His air heavy is cool. If you're over land, you slam yourself down, knocking people back, or you can even spike people out. I just recently figured out it was actually possible to do that, let me tell you. And you also have his massive light attacks, which do a good chunk of damage. You have his heavy attack, which if you have the right ability equipped, you can slow people off. His hold heavy attack is super powerful. Ymir is very bad in solos. You have to be one of the best Ymir players or know how Ymir works so perfectly for you to actually win in 1v1, or you're going up against somebody that is way less skill level. He does not excel in 1v1 is what I'm trying to tell you right now. His ultimate, not that great either. You're a snowball. Yeah, it's great in the terms of if you get your enemies out, you can jump off the map if you collect 3 of them, 2 of them, or 1 of them. And if you're lucky enough or aim them at the right angle or they're high enough vulnerability, you all get eliminated at the same time. Sometimes you're able to save yourself when you're in the snowball. So at the same time, it's not easy to land the snowball. And why I say that is because if you have an enemy who just knows how to dodge the snowball or has a dodge available mobility or just a little room on the map, they can easily avoid Ymir's ultimate. He does not hit it 8 out of 10 times on his enemies. With that being said, his frost breath is extremely powerful. You can interrupt nearly everything with your frost breath and you are immune to attacks. The issue with this is just trying to land it on your enemies. It's very easy to miss or not be able to land. When it comes to his wall is practically useless, I would say 9 out of 10 times. The wall is needed to combo off one of the most powerful combos in the game. When you freeze somebody and you put the wall up behind them, all you have to do now is slam some light attacks into them as you angle them to the corner, and they will go from 0% to 70 to 90% vulnerability in an instant, giving you a massive chance to knock them out. Now, obviously, his knockouts with his heavy attacks have massive potential. Again, he's not good in 1v1, really. You have to be a really good player. In 2v2 and 3v3, I think 3v3 is where he really excels, in my personal opinion. 2v2, it's 50-50. Sometimes you could be the cause of your loss. Sometimes you can't be. He's easy to body in my personal opinion, but if you're going up against a good player, he can excel. In 3v3, you don't really need to worry about nothing. You can go slamming your hammer around. You can help your allies. You're a good peel for them. You're also a great tank. That's another thing that makes Ymir awesome, is that he's very sturdy and tanky. You can't just easily knock him out. But as I said, you're hearing me give the points for both sides, and this is why I think he belongs in D tier. His skill cap is super high. Now, for next one we're going to go into is somebody that I love to say is the best character in Divine Knockout. And I wouldn't say that anymore. I would say Solace. However, I do think she is up there, and I would give her an A tier, and this is going to be Athena. Athena deserves to be A tier. She has the only parry in the game that is super powerful, and if timed right, you can literally counter everybody in the game with Athena. She's such a wonderful character. Her aerial attacks are something to be thought about, as if you land them, they're powerful. If you build right, you can be powerful with your aerial attacks as you use your spear to jump off. However, at the same time, you can miss it a lot of the time if you know somebody that's understands Athena, but her parry is her real go-to. Learning how to use her parry properly, her light attacks are very powerful. She has massive heavy attacks, just like Zeus. That hold heavy attack gives her that double whammy combo. However, also like Zeus, if you use the hold heavy attack and you miss your opponent and you're close to them, you're going to get punished for it because you're unable to really do anything. She also has the spare, which I totally love. Yes, you can use it to jump off, do aerial attacks, blah, blah, blah. But you can just chuck that at your enemies sometimes. There is a build for it. I'll release that video soon. You just literally chuck it and wither them away. Athena is all about patience, in my personal opinion. You can play her super aggressively, but if you play her super aggressively, you really need to understand how Athena works. And that's one of the things with Athena. Her skill cap is pretty high. However, even if you're not the greatest Athena player, if you at least master her parry, you're going to be able to do a lot. She's not that great, in my opinion, in 3v3. In 2v2, she kind of does excel because you can help your ally out. You can peel, you can take a lot of damage and interrupt them, just wither down your enemies. And in 1v1, she really excels. Her ultimate, however, is perfect at knocking enemies back if they run into you. However, it is the easiest to dodge. If you get some space back, you dodge out of it. If you use your mobility, you just have to avoid it. You can just run away or kite right off the map where the Valkyries will vanish. But if you get hit by that ultimate, you're probably going to get knocked out of the map. So you need to be very careful with that, okay? So with that being said, overall, Athena is such a great character. She also has the best spike. Well, I think if you can land the spike, it's hilarious to see her air heavy attack. Also, if you use her air heavy attack over land, she slams it down. That, however, can be a detriment. If you use that in the wrong position, your enemy can come in and just punish you for it. Her heavy attack is just perfect. I love to use the heavy attack just to knock people out of the map. And you know, everybody that's facing Athena has one thing in mind. When you're facing Athena, you need to be wary of her spear and her parry. So you're always on edge. And that's one of the things that I think Athena excels at and is so perfect about her character in general. So in essence, you basically win the mental game as Athena. But again, her skill cap is high, but her abilities allow her to shine so well. With that being said, her coolness factor, I would definitely give her a 10 out of 10. I love her skins. Her skins are beautiful, level 20, her dark heart skin, her overall basic skin is just great. Her whole aesthetic, I just love it. With that being said, we're going to go on to the next character, and this is going to be a character I think everybody waited for in this video, and it's going to be Loki. Loki is going to get A tier. Loki would have been S tier, but there are things in my opinion that keeps him back, and we're going to talk about that right now. So right now he's A tier, and one of the main reasons for that is his kit and his skill cap. His skill cap is extremely low compared to other characters. However, his biggest downside, in my personal opinion, if you know how to play Loki or you know how Loki works, you as a player know what to expect and can easily counter majority of Loki's moves, and that is something to keep in mind. However, Loki is perfect for 2v2, 3v3, 1v1 as well. One of the things that makes Loki so deadly is the fact that he can turn invisible and dodge. You even have an ability that can reduce your dodge cooldown by 50%. That is massive. When he's invisible, your enemy is waiting to see either they're trying to counter it or find a way to avoid it in some form or fashion. And plus, when you come out of invisibility, you drop poisons on them, ticking them away. There are so many different builds you can play with Loki that is wonderful. Now, when it comes to his ultimate can either go for a long charge or a short charge, knocking your enemies back if you reactivate it early. But obviously, a lot of people now, especially me, are turning to the tricked meta, where if you have tricked, you're able to swap vulnerabilities with your enemies if they're lower than you. And that right there is hilarious to see that. I have so many times where I've done that, let myself take damage or accidentally taken too much damage. I land my ultimate and then I'm back at 50% while they're over 100%. It's hilarious to watch. Now his acrobatic strikes is something that is a 50-50. Now with acrobatic strikes, you can hover twice over and land it. It gives you an empowered strike. If you use it perfectly with a nice combo, you can eliminate people out very early in the game, literally under 50% vulnerability, or you can literally come in, do some nice knockback and peel for your allies. With that being said, it is very easy to avoid. Once you know how to fight Loki and do not dodge early enough, you should be able to avoid that. Another thing with Loki that is something to note is that his obscuring dagger, when he throws his dagger, once you know when you're fighting Loki, obviously you know to expect it and understand how to dodge it. However, if a lot of things are going on the map, or you don't understand how to dodge this dagger, you will get hit with it and daze. Now, that daze does throw you off in the heat of battle. I don't care what anybody tells me. When you get hit by that, it does throw your mind off and you're like, okay, wait, I need to get my bearings back and figure out where I am. Plus, you can't really see what people are about to do on you at times and you will get punished for it. So that dagger is extremely powerful, especially if you use different builds. You can do so many things, even reset the poison you have ticking on your enemies. Now, with his ultimate, it is pretty easy to dodge in my opinion. However, the things that come with the ultimate kind of outweigh that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Now, another thing to note when it comes to Loki is that his light attacks are nice. they're great. I think his heavy attacks are garbage. His hold heavy attack is garbage in my opinion. It's like Thanatos' hold heavy attack. It really doesn't do much. You can't land it most of the time, even in team fights. His basic heavy attack, it's average, nothing too spectacular. His air attacks are nice, however. His air light into air heavy combo, that is average. I wouldn't think it's anything special, and that's something to note as well. He's also extremely fast paced, and that is something that keeps him here in A tier. He's one of those characters in the game right now, like Son Wukong, that you can be all around the map doing a lot of damage and maneuvering around. Loki is perfect as the assassin of the game. You're able to just stay stealth, walk around, not have to worry about anything. When it comes to 2v2, you're basically the same. You're not a frontliner, so do not frontline because you will be destroyed easily as Loki, but unless you have tricked and somehow landed, you wouldn't be fine. You know what I mean? Other than that, Loki overall is an A tier. His coolness factor for me, I would give him an 8.5 out of 10. I do like his skin more than his average base skin. With that being said, I don't think he's a 10 out of 10 in terms of coolness factor, but overall definitely an 8 out of 10. And I think he's easy for a lot of new players to pick up, and that is another reason why he's A tier. He's so easy to play and learn. You don't need 100 hours. Probably playing him for 10 hours and you're like, okay, I get the gist of this character and I can do a lot now. Now, again, remember, if you understand how Loki works, you will be able to counter him. That's how I see it anyways. Now with that, we're going to the last character, and this character would have been F tier before in the early tier list of Divine Knockout. However, now, currently in this patch, he is S tier, and that is King Arthur. He is the character that somehow came from the bottom and now is on the top. He is the one character this patch that is so above and broken in my personal opinion. Now, obviously, he's not broken to the point like Susano was where you can't defeat him, but he's broken to the point of, wow, if you pick him up and learn him, you're probably going to win most of your matches. He has one of the best spikes in the game. His stun can stun everything. It doesn't matter what you have. You can even stun Ymir's Frost Breath, and that right there is incredible. You can stun people and watch them drop off the map the same way Ymir can freeze people and drop them off. Your stun has so much potential. You also have your ultimate, which extends the range of your sword. Now, your ultimate isn't the best ultimate in the game, obviously. However, the way he works right now, if you build King Arthur properly using my build or any build that you really get with the speed, you will be able to dominate most matches. His air light attack, his air heavy attack, all perfect abilities. They have nothing really to say that is a big downside to it. His light attacks are great. Now, when you use your ultimate, yes, it's not the flashiest. It makes you look cool, however, having that giant sword. Now, with that being said, if you learn how to use it properly, you can use it as a defensive, coming down to avoid attacks from enemies as they will now be knocked back. You can also use it to hit them out of extra range, but mastering that extra range is something you're going to have to do with King Arthur. His soaring edge is nice. It slows your enemies. You can use it as a way to keep them at a distance. You know, if you get them in a corridor or whatever, you can even get Loki's out of invisibility, but it's hilarious. But the slow is the main part of that. His mobility is nice. It adds extra speed to you and your allies. He excels in all forms of the combat, whether it be 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. Honestly, there's nothing that King Arthur can't do this patch, which is great. His skill ceiling, however, is a little high. I will say that. Not everybody can pick him up, but he's a great character to have. You can see a lot of players that play him a lot use this kiting maneuver around where they can kite right at the edge of the map and somehow turn around. He's the perfect character, or one of the perfect characters in the game to do 1v2s out there. His coolness factor, he's getting a 10 out of 10. Have you seen his skins, especially that Dark Knight skin? 10 out of 10, no worries, right? The best characters, in my personal opinion, to 1v2 it is obviously going to be Saul, King Arthur, Amaterasu, and Son Wukong. You will have an easy time 1v2ing. Oh, wait, no, sorry, and Loki. I don't know why I forgot to add Loki into that. But yeah, those characters, best characters to 1v2 it. No problem most of the time once you understand how your character works. Another thing to note is, remember, it doesn't matter what character you like in Divine Knockout. Each one of these characters can be played at peak performance once you learn your character's kit. So even if you're playing a D tier character, you can make him S tier with your skill level. Skill level is what really matters in this game. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. This was a lot of talking and a lot of work to put into just to make this video. The editing process alone was so time consuming. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like if you can, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.